The world turns, and with each turn, a change. And each change makes it more complex, unpredictable, enigmatic. The world keeps turning. And from the Pellicer and Heredia practice, we anticipate everything that is going to happen. Brexit, artificial intelligence, new commercial borders, legal tech. The world keeps turning, and it commands the reliance on international lawyers who are capable of interpreting this new reality with integrity, honesty, and transparency, offering answers to so many new questions. Whatever it is, ask us. At Pellicer and Heredia, we know how.
Good afternoon, everyone. Well, thank you very much for joining us today on the 1st of December, already 2021. Today, we're going to talk about non-resident tax and wealth tax for non-residents, which probably a lot of you might not even know how it works. On the chat, we're going to publish some articles as well, just to give you a little bit of background how it works. Let me introduce you. I've got here in the panel Pedro Heredia. Hello, Pedro. Can you hear me?
Hello, Ignacio. Good afternoon. Hello, everyone. How are you doing?
Thank you very much, Pedro. I know it's been tight for you, just driving from Javier all the way through and trying to make it.
Just on time.
I know. Okay. Right. We've got on the panel as well Guillermo. He's our tax accountant, that he's going to be available now today within this hour of webinar. So please send us your questions in the chat. You've got a bottom here in the chat that Juanfran is going to just send it now through. And we will do, and we'll help you here as much as we can on this hour webinar. Okay, later on, we're going to have Michael from Andalusia, as you might know him, to join us. But he was very busy and couldn't make it at this time. Okay, so Pedro, will you please start explaining, because I know you've been on the radio today as well, doing this program about reminding the non-resident tax what it is and what people need to know. Pedro, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Ignacio. Well, that's right. This morning, I was invited in order to speak in the radio, in Bay Radio. And at this time, as you said, 1st of December of 2021, well, we normally give advice to clients regarding estate tax planning. Because at the end of the year is when, well, at the end, you need to realize what will be the taxes that you will pay in the following year. And at the end, if you need to make any movement or if some assets will be or not included in the wealth tax as we have in the Valencia region. So it is extremely important, and we have spoken about that, Ignacio, many times. It's important to make a tax planning, not just now, which is right now probably is the best time of the year to do it, but obviously when someone comes to Spain and it starts applying for residency and it starts being resident, and obviously will be attracted all the worldwide income in Spain. So we have to declare and pay taxes accordingly to Spain, and accordingly to Spain, but also obviously accordingly to the double taxation treaties between Spain and any other country. So having said that, obviously, Ignacio, we have repeated this many times that when someone becomes tax resident, well, natural year, 1st of January to 31st of December, if you live more than 183 days in Spain, then you are tax resident.
Correct. Very important, Pedro, as well, for people. We're having a lot of questions about immigration, and it's all related, Pedro. It's all related about, Ignacio, Pedro, when shall I jump on and go to Spain? So we first need to know, Pedro, how much time in a calendar year for tax purposes, and then the immigration purposes as well. So it's a combination of both, which it really makes it. And the good thing and the beauty of it, Pedro, is that you could plan ahead, plan in advance. And I always encourage clients and people in general to do that. That homework is always worth it. And that's why we're doing these kind of webinars today. So Pedro, let's clarify here about the difference between people thinking about immigration, okay, and the taxation. And then let's jump into how does it work, non-resident tax, okay? Will you start first, Pedro?
I mean, when someone, I mean, let's speak about European Union citizens and non-European Union citizens.
Yes.
But whenever gets residency, well, as a European Union citizen, you come here and you apply for residency, and then you get the residency. Or if you are non-European Union resident, imagine that you get like non-lucrative visa. The day that you enter in Spain will be the day that you start being resident in Spain. Is when it counts as you have the authorization to be resident in Spain. But as I said before, tax residency, you are tax resident whenever you live more than 180 days in Spain in a natural year from 1st of January to 31st of December. So if someone comes on the 1st of July and lives the rest of the year in Spain, will be less than 180 days. So even though obtained residency in the 1st of July, will not be tax resident. Obviously, if the previous month has not been in Spain. But obviously what we recommend in some way, in order just to make some withdraw some funds or mature some pensions or get some savings, withdraw them in order to, because on their countries they're having like some exemptions, not paying taxes. It is important to planify that before you become tax resident. So if in the year that you intend to apply for residency and you do it at the second semester of the year, will give you the possibility that during that year, to planify really if you need to sell a property, for example, in your home country because you want to buy another property in Spain, or it's an investment that you have in your home country and you want to move in a different way, or just to get some savings. So that it's important to understand what will be the taxes to be paid in Spain once you are tax resident. So important thing is, and we always repeat that, is to tax planning, to check according to your scenario, according to your situation, what will be the scenario, if it's important to get residency at the beginning of the year or the end of the year, if just in case you are going to become tax resident, and for those purposes to become tax resident. As I said at the beginning, the obligations are attracted worldwide income in Spain, and it's not just tax return which is attracted to you whenever you become tax resident. Wealth tax, in case that you are resident, in this case in Valencia region, you are resident in Spain, and you have to declare your worldwide assets if they are, in this case, more than 500,000 euros, which is the minimum exempt. It is not included the permanent home. Or if you are non-resident, also you have assets in Spain that are over 700,000 euros, then will be also have to declare wealth tax. So this is why it's important. It's connected tax return, wealth tax. Also, once you become tax resident, and we have done many articles, also webinars about the Modelo 720. It's an informative declaration. Ignacio, we've been the last, I would say, the latest years making a lot of articles and webinars and inform clients that become tax resident in Spain to inform tax office, because it is an obligation. And even though it has a, I would say, information that you have to give about your assets abroad, it has a big fines. So it is important, it is an obligation to inform tax office those assets that you have outside Spain are over 50,000 euros. So it's important, it's connected, everything at the end. Tax return, inheritance tax also is something that whenever you become resident, it's important to planify, to make the will correctly, and to planify what are going to be the beneficiaries, what would be the taxes accordingly, if they are residents or not. If they are not residents, it's different, but if they are residents in Spain, the beneficiaries, then we have to declare worldwide assets. This happens a lot in here, as we represent clients are spouse, husband and wife, and they make a will and they put as a benefit in the will each other. Obviously, they are residents in Spain, so it's important to check and planify that. Yeah.
Pedro, let me just, Guillermo is there, and we're going to try to answer some questions, okay, as quick as we can. Obviously, I always encourage people to do individual consultation, just because because your scenario is not the same one than the other. So it's very hard to give specific advice in a general meeting here, right? But we'll try to do our best up to where we are. Now, clarifying, Pedro, and summarizing, because I'm getting here some questions. On one hand, you guys need to know from calendar year in Spain for taxes, 1st of January to the 31st of December. And that is really the starting point of your tax relationship in Spain. Now, you'll ask me, Ignacio, how do we go about it? Right. If you, as Sandra was saying here, you arrive after the 1st of July, that means that you will stay less than 183 days in Spain. Obviously, you'll be non-resident taxpayer, right? What is a non-resident taxpayer? If you have property assets in Spain, then let's say you have a property, you will pay non-resident tax. Normally, it's not a lot of money. Normally, it will be for European 19% of the catastral value multiplied 2. So the catastral value of the Sumabil or the EB multiplied 2, and then you pay 19% tax on that low value. Or if you are non-European, then it will change into 24. The difference is when you're renting properties. When you're renting properties, here I find it a bit obviously different because non-Europeans will always pay the 24% of the gross figure, and Europeans will pay 19%. That's a big difference because of the Brexit here for British, and Americans being always doing like this because they're being non-Europeans all along. Okay, that's to clarify you, Sandra, and the rest that you're asking, how does it work non-resident? Now, with regards to wealth tax, we never touched this subject, guys, here on wealth tax. Well, wealth tax is only taxable for non-residents if your assets are in Spain. Obviously, you guys here are saying here you have assets in the United States, you have assets in the UK, you have assets in Australia, in different parts of the world. Well, that's not taxable on wealth tax. And you will only be paying tax here as wealth tax if you have assets. My recommendation, just control your finances. For example, here in Comunidad Valenciana, in general, here, there is two different things. For a non-resident, wealth tax is over 700,000 euros. And that's all around Spain, okay? Because you're non-resident, and that's about the wealth you have per person. So if you have €1 million property, you've got 50% in your name, 50% in your wife, that doesn't count, that doesn't cover. If you have money in the bank, obviously, as a non-resident, then that's add up. So you could plan in advance. You could control that, okay? And you could have all over the world as a non-resident to pay wealth tax. Over the 700,000 euros for non-residents, you'll start paying non-resident tax. And then that wealth tax, you will do it from the 1st of April to the 30th of June. The same as residents, but different allowance. I don't want to get confused here. What is wealth tax for residents? Because for residents, you've got extra allowance. You've got the allowance of having a main property, which you don't have for non-residents. And then you have another allowance up to 80% of the tax reduction for residents. For non-residents, it's completely different. And you might hear, and you might say, Ignacio, what about Murcia, Almeria, Madrid? For non-residents is exactly the same. Okay, so it is important. It is important for you. So non-resident tax, if you stay less than 183 days, and if you have assets in Spain, right? And then if you have over wealth tax for non-resident, if you have assets in Spain, 700,000 euros per person in Spain. Okay, I thought Pedro was good to clarify this because people might get confused. Probably people, you know, is the immigration, the non-resident, the wealth tax, and you could see from the questions here that if you want Pedro to start answering some questions, because we're getting
absolutely. I mean, it's important to clarify that point.
Yeah.
When someone is not resident, obviously for the assets in Spain, we have to be checking if is subject to be taxed or no. But obviously, when someone is resident, and in this particular case in Valencia region, obviously something that needs to be checked. Yeah. Okay, let's go through the questions. I'm not sure, Ignacio, where do we start? I can see that.
I think we're starting with Oliver. Oliver is making some questions here. Do you want to go for it, Pedro, or do you want to take it?
Okay, you may take Oliver. Okay, it's the one who starts as an Irish citizen.
Irish citizen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I will read it and then we try to answer
the question.
An Irish citizen, this is what says Oliver. Thank you, Oliver, for the question. Citizen, an Irish citizen living in the UK, if I stay in Spain from May 2021 to April 2022 for 8 months, but never more than 89 days, then I automatically liable for wealth tax. Does this calculation change if I earn more gross income? Does this calculation change if I earn more gross income from property in Spain than my property in the UK? What about if the net income is higher in the UK? Well,
Right.
at the end, it looks like obviously from May to 31st of December of 2021 is more than 183 days. It says living in the UK, but really in Spain from May to April is resident in Spain and is tax resident in Spain. And we have to be declared from 2021 all the worldwide income in Spain. Not just that, also if the assets are over 500,000 euros and do not count the permanent home in Spain, if it has, then will be wealth tax also taxable. I don't understand, I mean, really the question, but at the end it says, if I earn more gross income from property in Spain, it gets more income in Spain more than the UK. If it changes, obviously, regarding income from properties in the UK, according to the double taxation treaty between Spain and the UK, there is some taxes to be paid in the UK, which will be deducted. In Spain, we have like kind of bonification, reductions, and also whenever we have a payment to be done on the quote or the scale of the tax return, then it's a deduction of whatever is being paid in this case in the UK. But obviously, I think Ignacio, this question is really, I mean,
yes.
He's resident in Spain. It looks like he thinks that he's not tax resident, but he's tax resident.
I'm a bit confused because he says 80 days. So
89, I assume that he's saying that I do not cross the 90 days, 90 from 180 days, but it's nothing to. It's tax year, as Ignacio, you said, and I said, is 183 days on a natural year.
Right, let me just, Pedro, clarify to Oliver. Oliver, one thing are the visas, and the visa for 90 days, tourist visa is one thing. Okay, so if you have two visas, like two tourist visa, 90 and 90, you'll be 180 with no visa. So that will be a tourist visa. Okay, you'll be qualified as a non-tax resident. If you go over 183, the calendar year, Oliver, right? Calendar year, then you will have to comply. And then what changes? Well, it does change, and we'll have to look into it. In Spain, it goes from January to December resident. It doesn't matter you came to Spain in May. You'll have to be taxed from January. And it will be very important to inform, if you're in the UK, that you are no tax code for 2021 in the UK, and you are a tax here. So the UK should reimburse you the money from January. You pay everything here in Spain for the following year. But we really we need to sit down, Oliver, to make sure exactly, because and the question is not very, very clear, and then we need to make more questions. Let's move on, Pedro. Let's move on with Dean.
Okay. The following question I can see in the chat is being made by Dean. Thank you, Dean, for the question. Please, can you advise what qualifies as family company shares? Also, is a UK SIPP an exempt asset for SWT, or it is taxable? But SIPP is a self-investment pension plan. It's a pension, as this is a pension, it's exempt. And I don't know if the question was with wealth tax, but I can say that if it will not be included in the wealth tax, will not be included as a pension. Mm-hmm. Regarding family company shares, this should be a little bit more clear. But whenever companies are how to say, it's like linked with other companies or owned other companies, then it's linked to other companies, and in some cases should be included. But this needs to be clarified.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay.
Let's move on with the following, Pedro. I think.
Well, also,
Ding is asking if we could just give him accurate advice here, Spain and the UK. Ding, what we could do, we could organize video conference or even personal, sit down, put everything on the table, and then do simulations, which I think is always best. So you have simulation in one scenario, one possible scenario, and the other one. So you could make decisions, and then you could act accordingly. and make a move to Spain or to the UK or control your finances. So I think that's very wise. Okay, yes, we could help you with that. We'll give you the email address later on if you would like to do so. Pedro, shall we join then Johnny's question about, is that the one, dual taxation treaty?
Exactly.
Oh.
It's John.
We have another one here from the US. Okay. If I have less than 500,000 euros assets in the US, I do not owe wealth tax. Well, here the question is, if you have abroad, and I don't know, Pedro, if he's saying he's resident or non-resident.
Well, let's clarify that. If he's non-resident, obviously,
right.
If the assets are in Spain, even though, I mean, the minimum exempt is 700,000 euros. If it's less than that, obviously, would be exempt. But if he's resident in Spain, and he has less than that, even though when we say in Spain, there are different regions, and this needs to be clarified. In Madrid, for example, there is no wealth tax in Madrid region.
For residents, Pedro. This is for residents.
For residents.
For residents. For non-resident, it's exactly the same all throughout Spain.
Exactly. So, 500,000 euros assets in the USA. This is what he's saying. Well, if even though he buys a property in Valencia region, in this case, that is your permanent home, that will not be included if it's no more than 300,000 euros. So the answer is no, will not be included.
Yes. So, Sona, the answer is no, you don't need to pay wealth tax to that. Okay. Let's move on, Pedro. I think we have one here, another one from, is it Eric? Is it Eric, the one? Do retirement assets like IRA and 401k and Social Security pension from US count towards wealth tax? Well, pensions, no. Okay, my understanding, IRA, it will be understood as a pension as well, and 401k, I believe, Pedro, it will be understood as pension, correct? I mean, this is. I will speak to Guillermo, say what he says to clarify, Guillermo, about question from Eric, which is a type of pensions. He's saying the IRA, the 401. And the Social Security, which is obviously a pension. But as long as, Eric, the answer is as long as I'll consider pensions, right. Roth IRA, I think Roth IRA is not a pension. It's
exactly.
Roth IRA, is that correct, Pedro? Yeah.
Exactly. Roth IRA is an asset that can be withdrawn. It counts as an asset in order to be included in the wealth tax. It's traditional IRA as a pension, not, but Roth IRA, it has to be included. And this is our criteria. Okay, this is the difference between the IRA and the Roth IRA. As a traditional IRA, you get benefit and taxes, but as a Roth IRA, you don't. You pay taxes, and then you have the assets to be used as an asset, and it is included in the wealth tax.
Pedro, Sona is saying here, when you say resident, do you mean TIE? They're getting confused with these again. Okay, let's go over again. When I say resident today, we're talking about fiscal resident. Okay, for taxation, I could only talk, Sona, about fiscal resident. The TIE is immigration. Okay, you could, and it's a bit more complex, but you could still get a TIE in September the first time, and only be September, October, November, and December, 4 months, and you still be no tax resident. Okay, so the TIE is a permit for you to be resident, and fiscal resident is for those who are legally resident with the visa or TIE or permit, the green card permit, then stay more than 183 days. One thing is immigration, one thing is the tax. One comes first and the other second. Okay, so that will be the question. Pedro, shall we move on with David? He's making another question. Yeah.
There is a question by Oliver. It says about wealth tax rate per annum if you own assets at, say, 1 million euros globally, and you are deemed tax resident in Spain. It would be around, according to the Valencia region rules, will be around 800 euros to be paid on tax, or 1 million euros assets, 800 euros. Approximately, this is what we have calculated. Obviously, if you want more accurate information, obviously we should check that in personally, that we would be happy to calculate it to you and be accurate on whether the asset needs to be included or the value of the assets. This is an important thing about the value of the assets. about the value of the property, what kind of figure needs to be included. Is catastral value, is a purchase value, is a, well, it's also some discussions on that should be clarified. Okay, let's move on with the following question. I think it is
Pedro, Oliver did clarify. Did you run through this, what he meant? Because I think Oliver just sent a text here now saying that is less than six months in 2021. So if you're less than 6 months, it's only non-resident tax.
Exactly.
Okay, and again, Oliver, non-resident tax is for properties in Spain, assets in Spain, or income in Spain. Let's say you're renting your property in Spain. Let's say you are being employed in Spain as a non-resident. Okay, you will be taxed 19%. You've got property, whether you rent it or not. Okay, that's for income. And again, the wealth is 700,000 euros in Spain per person. Okay, for non-resident, because today we're trying to concentrate on that. Yeah,
okay.
Pedro, please
I think we jumped some by John about double taxation treaty. I don't know, we didn't speak about this one. Yes,
no.
I spend the winter 7 months each year in Spain, summer 5 months in the UK. So 7 months each year in Spain and 5 months in the UK. That's important information that is given by John. I am a Spanish resident with a TIE under the withdrawal agreement, perfect. A personal with an S1, all the income derives from the UK. I have a house in both countries and my wife is a UK resident. I have received conflicting advice on where I should be tax resident. My own reading of the rules put them as tax resident under domestic laws on both countries. So I assume that the double taxation treaty decides. I understand that can only be taxed in one country. Obviously, it's in one country, UK and Spain. Obviously, our criteria is that you live more than 180 days in Spain, you are tax resident in Spain. And that is what has been said from the beginning by us. That is a presumption. Obviously, this is the general rule. There are some other rules, like if your business is in a different country, if your family is living in a different country, as is the case. But to answer this question in general, obviously, I will answer you that we'll have to be in Spain.
I think Pedro is a good question from John, and I'm sure a lot of people still are not clear. But John, basically from your question, you're spending more than 183 days in Spain, and therefore you should be taxed in Spain minus whatever you pay in the UK as a non-resident. Because in the UK you should be mentioned and registered as a no tax code in the UK, and in Spain you should be paying everything. You will never pay double. Okay, that's very important, and that's what you need to bear in mind. Okay, so you will never pay double, but the correct thing to do is to put yourself as a resident here. And some people might have a TIE and they stay less than 6 months. Okay, that's something different, because that for the immigration they will be a no tax resident, but for immigration they might start all over again when they need to renew their TIE. Okay, so I don't want to confuse the issue, but again, first you have your permit to live in Spain. Second, you pay tax accordingly your status. So depending on the time you spend here and dependent on your assets. Okay, let's move on, Pedro, so we could just answer all of them.
Okay, I think the following question is by Sandra. I don't know, so to clarify, if you move to Spain or on after the 1st of July, repeat again, Sandra, we insist on that. If you live more than 183 days in Spain, then you are a tax resident in Spain. From 1st of July, it's going to be probably in that day 1 day less than half of the year, so will not be tax resident that year, and they will be non-resident with the obligation as a non-resident.
Right.
I think.
Right. Okay. Yeah, Dean. Well, thank you for that, Dean. Yeah, we could discuss it and then and take it further, and then you could get accurate case scenarios. Okay. Right. Let's move on, Pedro.
Okay, David Arnold is. I think it's.
We did answer that. Yeah.
We did that. Okay.
Yeah. No, David Arnold. No, Pedro. Sorry. Go ahead.
I just applied for residency via non-lucrative visa. I arrived on the 22nd of November 2021 with regard to wealth tax. I own 2 properties in Spain, and the value total is it says
13,000 euros.
probably is wrong. This.
I think he may say probably. He could clarify, David, if it's 130 or 30.
Exactly. I've just applied for residency via an executive visa right now, and with regard to wealth tax, okay, the same. Okay. Well, obviously the numbers are wrong, probably, but as we said, this person, and this is for general, came on November 2021. So he came in the second semester of the year, so he's going to spend less than 180 days in Spain. So year 2021 will be non-resident for tax purposes. So income, worldwide income from 2021 do not have to be declared at all in Spain. Do not have to be declared at all. Wealth tax in Spain for 2021. Wealth tax, it's important to say that you need to declare wealth tax the following year, assets that you have on the 31st of December.
Of previous year.
Except some shares or values that you have to make an average of the last 3 months of the year. Okay, but it's the 31st of December. Which assets do you have? Which value of your assets do you have on the 31st of December? And that year you must be tax resident. That's important. So for David, obviously for 2021, there is nothing to worry really. He will be tax resident in 2022, and obviously in 2023, he will have to be declaring all income and maybe wealth tax in case that the assets are over 500,000 euros.
Pedro, let me just clarify one thing, because we didn't run through one thing. Very important, everyone to know that first you arrive to the country and then you need to spend the time. And then the following year is the year that you'll have to do your previous tax. So let's say you arrive 2021. It doesn't matter whether you arrive in January or in December. Any obligation as a non-resident or as a resident, wealth tax as a resident, wealth tax as a non-resident, it will be the following year. So it's always 1 year behind on the data details, okay? So always say, this year, for example, David, you arrived 2021, so you'll need to be worrying about what tax obligation you'll have to do in 2022. In your case, for 2021, David, you are a non-resident. So therefore, you will only be taxed as a non-tax resident on the properties you've got. So on the 13,000 euros, you'll pay non-resident tax on property, okay? But not on wealth, because the wealth that you mentioned here is not over 700,000 euros. Okay, I hope it's clear. Right, Pedro, sorry, just please carry on with the question. I think we are ready with John. Is that correct?
John, I think looks like that we didn't answer as well. He was asking about the double taxation. I think he's saying, obviously, yeah. I mean, obviously the rules in the United Kingdom and in Spain can be considered as a resident. Obviously in Spain, John, you will be considered as a resident in Spain and tax resident. So it needs to be applied the convenio, which is the double taxation treaty. And the residency is given to that country, in this case, Spain, as you are resident because you are living in Spain more than 150 days. So because you are considered as a resident in Spain, then you are treated as a tax resident in Spain, according to the convenio, which is the double taxation treaty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we did run through, but probably we got confused on the panel. But yes, John, you say you spend more than 7 months in Spain, and if it's in a calendar year, yes, you need to pay in Spain, not in the UK, but you need to inform the UK you are a no tax resident and you are a tax resident in Spain. Okay, you need to be very accurate with that because you're dealing with two administrations and they could get confused. It's very good to act accordingly. Okay, so I hope it's clearer. Right, Pedro, let's move on here. I think we are ready with John or James, yeah?
I can see the questions now. I mean, let me...
50,000 euros, Pedro. I think James is talking about. You mentioned declaring individual assets exceeding 50,000 euros. Is that the level for each class of assets? So I have two vehicles. No, I think they're getting confused for residents here, Pedro. Could you clarify what is 720 and who's applicable and who will be applicable for that, not for non-resident, the 720, okay?
Okay, Modelo 720 is a model that you inform the tax office assets that you have abroad Spain, not in Spain, that are over 50,000 euros. There are three pillars. One of them is property. If the property that you acquire or you inherit or you were given was acquired in a price that is more than 50,000 euros, then you need to inform the tax office that you own that property 100% or 50% or whatever, one property or different properties. It's an informative declaration. It's no wealth tax. It's a different thing. Also, we have to be included in tax return, also in Spain. But this is an informative declaration. Properties. And then bank accounts, deposits, savings that you have in bank accounts. If all of them together are more than 50,000 euros, then you need also to inform the bank, the address of the bank, the account number, and the money that you have at the end of the year, or an average rate, an average amount of the last quarter. And also some investment funds, life insurance, that also is another pillar, that is the value at the end of the year is more than 50,000 euros, will have to be declared. When do you have to declare? Do you have to declare this Modelo 720 every single year? No, you have to declare that. Obviously, you have those assets, those three pillars, that each one of them is more than 50,000 euros. The following year that you are tax resident in Spain. For example, if you came this year in the first semester of the year 2021, then you must make the Modelo 720 from 1st of January to 31st of March next year, 2022. If you became this year, 2021, in the second semester of the year, then this year you will not be tax resident. Next year, 2022, you will be tax resident, and the following year will be the year that you will have to declare Modelo 720 from 1st of January to 31st of March. We have plenty of information in our website about Modelo 720. Obviously, if it requires more, I
will share it, Pedro. I will share it now in what is in the blog about 720, and they can read that as well. Okay, let me just find it just for a second while we're going and we're moving forward with the question about the South Africa pension. If you have it there in place, I think that will be the following one. Do you have that one, Pedro? Is from Ivan. Good evening. I'm resident in Spain. I pay pension tax in South Africa on my pension there, and tax in Spain as income yearly. Where should I receive the relief of dual taxation treaty, in Spain or in South Africa? Okay, he is, I understand, Ivan, you stay here more than 183 days. Therefore, you need to pay here in Spain, use a dual taxation treaty, and deduct whatever you paid in South Africa.
That's right. Well, Ivan, whatever you paid in the South Africa, then whenever you declare your worldwide income in Spain, you need to deduct the quota you have already paid in South Africa. That's right.
Okay. Right, let's move on. I'm going to just share here.
Let me see if I'm a little bit lost with the questions.
I know where I'm though.
Okay.
James, you've got another one from James. I have a golden visa and therefore I have the TIE for investor, but I am in Spain only for 150 days in the year. Is it correct that I am not fiscal resident, Pedro?
Absolutely correct, James. You are not tax resident.
Yeah, that's
as we said, you spend less than 183 days, you spend 150. So you have a golden visa, even though you stay all those 150 days in a row. You are not tax resident in Spain. Even though you are not even resident, you could be if you wanted to, because you have a golden visa. You can be resident. You can be. You can work in Spain if you wanted to. The golden visa is very flexible. You made an investment, but you are not tax resident. If you spend more than 183 days in Spain, then you become automatically tax resident, and that year you will have to declare to a Spanish tax office all your worldwide income.
Good. Okay, Pedro.
Let's repeat again, Ignacio. I mean, the golden visa. We always think about golden visa is the minimum investment is a property. is 500,000 euros, but maybe James, the investment that has been made is more than that. As we say that the minimum exempt is 700,000 euros as a non-resident with an asset in Spain, which to obtain a golden visa, you have to have an investment in an asset in Spain. So maybe it has to be made wealth tax, maybe.
Right, but the answer, Pedro, you link to that. If you have a golden visa with 500,000 euros, therefore you don't qualify. If you only have that in Spain, Pedro,
that's right.
you don't pay. You will only pay income tax
Exactly.
return as a non-resident based on your SUMA or EB value. As I said, the cadastral value multiply 2, multiply 24 if you're a non-European resident, which I think it is in this case because you've got golden visa. That's the only tax you will pay. Wealth tax, you don't qualify unless you have another 200 or 300,000 euros in the bank, and therefore you go over the 700,000 euros in Spain. So there is a way to do tax planning here. Okay, James. Right, Pedro. Let's move on. I think the following one is from John. Do you have it there? US IRA question.
Let me just read it and just get on through that. Okay.
Right. Shall I read it, Pedro?
Yeah, let's go ahead. Yes,
right. This is another US IRA question, but it concerns income tax, not wealth tax. As you know, in the US, one can deposit up to a maximum amount of income each year to one's IRAs. And the amount contributed is not taxed in the year of contribution later. Later, usually after retired, one can withdraw amounts from the IRA and the US taxes the withdrawal as income in the year of the withdrawal. In this way, US income tax is deferred from higher income years to lower income years. This usually results in lower taxes. My question, will Spain consider either withdrawal as taxable income or simply as withdrawals for one's saving account? Right. Is taxable income.
Yeah, that's right.
Do you want to add something, Pedro?
No, well, as far as I understood the question, I mean, it's going to be taxable, income taxable as exactly it is in, I assume, in the US, but it's going to be taxable, yeah.
But very important, you will never pay double here, right? Exactly. You will not pay double. So it's very important when you do the tax planning with the accountant that you have under control the American income tax return and the Spanish, and then use the most of the dual taxation treaty and the best strategy to follow and comply with the tax. Okay, so you don't lose money, but you will never pay double here, John. Okay, right, let's move on. Let's see if Guillermo could say anything else to any other ones, Pedro, that we have. I think I'm getting lost here, Pedro. I think John is getting back saying that he's a tax resident in the UK and Spain. But yes, John, but you stay more than 183 days in Spain here, so you need to use a dual taxation treaty, and then you need to do it here because in the convention in the treaty, if you read through, I think it's Article 3 or 4 of the dual taxation treaty, you will see it says the requirements just in case you stay in both countries, what rules will apply, and then you say you'll stay 7 months in Spain. So it is my understanding that you will be tax resident in Spain, and then pay here, because you spend more than 183 days. Right, I think Guillermo, I don't know.
Yeah, but he's considered more, I mean, tax resident in the UK, I think, because he spends more than 3 months.
Because in the UK, it's more than 3 months, and then they put him. But the correct thing, right. So
we have to be clear. I mean, the general rule is 183 days. Obviously, I think I said at the beginning also, you have a link on business, economic, and the family.
Yeah.
Then things are more specific in these cases. I don't know, Joe, we can invite you to have a personal meeting, a video conference with us, and let's
clarify.
Send us like an email with your email, and we will be happy to help you on this.
Yeah, the thing is, as I said, if it's very accurate here and a very specific situation, John, we need to sit down and probably we need to make you a lot of questions. And then with the treaty in hand, go and run through everything, we could just clarify what is the whole scenario. Because if you might be having a very link and joint under this treaty relationship with the UK, you might end up being tax resident, but you need to prove for certain purposes. And we need to clarify here. Right,
Okay.
let's move on. But as I said at the beginning, John, this is in general advice. I will need to understand much more where your income is coming from, family, properties, and once we've got everything on the table, we could clarify, because even if one tax office goes back to you and say, this is my understanding, the burden of proof is yours to say the opposite. Okay, so it is very important to sit down and clarify a lot of questions that for sure the taxman will ask, and then you make a decision. Okay, right. But I will ask Guillermo to see what he thinks with the information you provided, and we will just move on. Pedro, where are we now? Because we're having lots. We've got one. We have one from Christian. Has gross income. Right. I think two companies in the US. One company has properties for around 1.2, and the other company has gross income for around. But this is company, and the company is in the US. My understanding, Pedro, is that Christian will be receiving income from the company, and the company will pay corporate tax. The property will pay everything in the US, and he will be paying here only dividends. And correct me if I'm wrong, Pedro. Dividends or salaries will be taxed here. If he will buy a house here for 500 euros in Valencia, okay. But my recommendation here, Christian, to make sure that you buy and you do immigration planning, because as Pedro stated, golden visa. And if it's for you and your family, you need it in one name, not in two names, because 500,000 is one name, and then the beneficiaries could take all the advantages of golden visa. And then if you stay more than 183 days, you will pay taxes in Spain. But whatever is in the US, and you could see in the blog the dual taxation treaty between, and I will just post it here, USA and Spain, UK and Spain. We'll have to use it, and you will never pay double. Okay, right, Pedro. Any other that we might have here?
Regarding this latest question about Christian, I think it was it's two companies with properties. Obviously, with that's important to check about wealth tax, if his properties is just an activity, or if it has some employees or not. It's just patrimonial company, in order to be or not to be included in the wealth tax. Okay, following question is, if I arrive, is that one Dean, or this one it was already said?
I think you went already for the 720, Pedro. We went over the wealth tax for residents and for non-residents, income tax return, and the dual taxation treaty that John is here mentioned. What I'm going to do, Pedro, I'm going to just copy and paste the article about the wealth tax, and let me just find it, the blog, while you're going through the next question. Let me just give me 1 sec, so everybody could have the link to the categories here. So if you go to our blog and you click here, blog, and then you click taxes, you'll find the articles. And then when you go into taxes, you've got certain things that you should bear in mind. I'm going to just copy and paste here the link of dual taxation treaty between Spain and the US. and then the one for the UK. As a summary, Pedro, would you like to say anything else?
Okay, well, thank you for everyone to make a question. We hope that we helped in some ways as much as we could. Obviously, those ones that has not been answered or you will need some more clarification, please contact us and we'll be happy to have a video conference in order to inform you. And probably we'll have some questions in order to not to be on general information, just on a specific information. But this is what everyone would like to receive. Obviously, the recommendation always is to make a tax planning, really. I mean, if you are here, if you are thinking about coming or relocating into Spain, not just for immigration, for taxes is extremely important. It's connected absolutely whenever you are a resident. And also if you are going to bring the business in case, or you are going to move into Spain and you have already business abroad, is something that needs to be checked. How need you receive the income? What will be the taxes to be paid? If it goes to one queue of base general or goes to another queue, which is base de ahorro, with the percentage to be taxed are different. What needs to be included, well taxed or not? What will be the quota to be paid? What the double taxation treaty says regarding the taxes that needs to be paid. Everything is extremely important to plan and do it before you come to Spain.
I forgot to mention, Pedro, we didn't talk about capital gain tax for residents and non-residents. Okay, here I would like to clarify for non-European and European, the capital gain tax for non-residents, whether you're European or non-resident or non-European non-resident, it will be 19%. It will be very important, and then this is good for you to know. When you come to Spain, it is important you place yourself into the correct shoes, the correct tax system, and everything follow up properly and plan, right? In fact, I've noticed that a lot of people are non-resident, didn't do anything, and that probably opens a can of worms because the tax office thinks that you are a resident and they start sending you letters. My recommendation personally is for you to do the non-resident tax for dual purposes. One, to pay the non-resident tax, and two, to make sure the tax office knows that you are a no taxpayer non-resident. But as a non-resident, and for those who are residents, they will need to be in the system, because otherwise you're going to be retained 3% of the selling value of the property when you sell the property. So you'll start losing the 3%, and then you need to work out the income tax for capital gain tax on 19%. So you need to work out within a period of time after selling. Okay, Pedro, I thought that was important.
Yes. Let me just answer one more question in the chat. Is there about golden visa? It says Alison. Thank you, Alison. Can it be a combination of properties that add up to 500,000 euros, or must it be only one property of double? It can be different kind of properties. It can be 10 properties of 50,000 euros. Can be just one property. What is important is you prove an investment of 500,000 euros on property without a mortgage, or you can apply for a mortgage. Imagine that you invest 800,000 euros. You apply for a mortgage of 300,000 euros, but you bring from your pocket 500,000 euros as an investment in one property or 10 properties. It doesn't matter. There's no limit. Okay. Ignacio, I need to leave because I have another appointment.
Right. Let me just close. All right, Pedro. I'll see you. Don't miss the next webinar on the 15th of December. We're going to talk about life planning. Very important, as Pedro stated before. It's going to be about inheritance tax planning, and very, very important of making a will, how much will be inheritance tax, and power of attorney. That's important, and we'll be dealing in 15 days. Okay, I'm going to leave you over to Juanfran to close the webinar. I will just put here in the chat my email address and Pedro email address, and just in case it could bring any value to you. And now here you have. This is for me. This is for Pedro, and then you could apply for any video conference, whatever suitable. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Juanfran. Cuando quieras, over to you, and see you on the 15th.
You can't stop thinking about it. That hidden cove, just for you. That little hideaway in the mountains, or that beautiful postcard town. Dreaming about enjoying the fresh air again. Feeling the sun on your skin. Exploring. Walking. Traveler, there is no path. Paths are made by walking. Never stop dreaming. Spain will wait.